Good evening, Purple family. Welcome to another episode of Shades of Purple, a Prince podcast. On tonight's episode, I'm going to do a little something different. I'm just going to go off the dome. I hope this won't, appear to be a rant or sound like a rant, but I just wanted to talk about the fact that, as much as we all love Prince and we're all, Prince fams, Purple family, the fact that, Prince was human. And the fact that he would sometimes do things that was kind of jerky. He was a jerk, basically. And that's why I titled this, Is Prince a Jerk? And I mean, the answer to that is yes and no, I guess you could say. And in this episode, I'm just going to highlight some of the instances where I personally felt that Prince was a jerk. Now, I know that when we kind of talk about subjects concerning Prince that are kind of negative, they have a negative connotation to them, a lot of people are just like, oh, don't say that, Prince was, he was perfect, or, well, people don't say that he was perfect, but, that's how they get really defensive in saying that, oh, we shouldn't focus on the negative. And I'm not trying to focus on the negative. I'm just trying to point out the fact that Prince was human, and there was some things that he did to other people, whether it's bandmates, girlfriends, that was just kind of messed up, and, and nobody's perfect. Like I said, we're all human. I mean, but when it comes to public figures, which is what Prince was, their activities are a little bit more publicized. They're more exposed. So that's just a part, this is kind of part and parcel of being a celebrity, is that your actions and your words are more closely scrutinized. And that was the case for Prince. And I think for a while, that's why Prince didn't really like to do interviews like that too much, because he didn't like his words to be misconstrued, as they often were sometimes. Back when he first got on the scene, people in the press didn't believe that his name was really Prince. They thought that was just his stage name, even after he said, yes, this is my real name. And of course, the ongoing, thing about his sexuality, which is still, when I say ongoing, it's still ongoing today. There's still a lot of people who still believe that Prince was gay. And even after he said, hey, in an interview, way back in like 1980, 1981, hey, I'm not gay, but they still, perpetuated this myth that, that he was gay based on, his mannerisms and how he dressed and, this, that, and the third. But, they didn't understand that Prince was, Prince. Like he didn't allow, these gender roles or these gender rules to define who he was as a man. And he was a man. He wasn't, there's some people that want to try to say that, he was trans or he was this, he was not trans. Even though, like I said, I feel like that's just like the trend now that everybody, not that everybody wants to be trans, but that, trans people in particular are getting, much more publicity. And not to say that that's a bad thing necessarily, but they just want to, attach themselves to whoever, they think that people really like. Because a lot of trans people, and I'm not going to get off on my subject, I promise. But some, I'm not going to say a lot. So let me not say a lot. I'll say some trans people really, really, really need that validation. And so they seek out, celebrities in particular to try to validate, how they feel about themselves. And I know that some trans people have kind of looked to Prince and said, okay, well, he may have been trans. He may have been wanting, but no, he was not trans. He never desired, to my knowledge, to be a woman. Of course, never went as far as having any type of surgery to be a woman. A lot of people misconstrued the fact that, he sang in falsetto as him wanting to be a woman, but that's just him singing in falsetto. Men do that all the time. I think that Prince, and I said this in my episode where I talked about his sexuality, was that he was very in tune to his feminine side. And with him being a Gemini, he had, those dual natures, those multiple personalities almost. That's where we see Camille and these other kind of, more feminine personas. And that was, that was Prince. That was just who he was. It had nothing to do with his, sexuality, so to speak. But anyway, so let me get on talking about what I was going to talk about, where I'm just instances that kind of highlighted Prince kind of being a little bit of a jerk, like for instance, his treatment of the Revolution when he got ready to disband them. I think that he could have went about that a better way. I know that Brown Mark, for example, in his book talked about, it kind of started going downhill with the Revolution toward the middle ending of the Purple Rain tour. And at the end of the Purple Rain tour, for example, they were expecting, the Revolution was expecting like this big payout because, the Purple Rain tour was, of course, very, very successful. They sold like 1.7 million tickets. I mean, they played literally all over the country, and they were expecting like a really, really nice payout. And so Brown Mark recalls that when he, got his check and it said $15,000, he was like, what? What is this? When other artists are paying their band like $1 million a piece, we get $15,000. And he said that he tried to confront Prince about it, and Prince was just like, hey, that's not me. I'm the music guy. I'm not the business guy. He kind of referred Brown Mark to, his manager. And Prince was very much like that. Like when it came to like the day-to-day business of, his empire, he hired people for that. He had accountants for, to keep up with, where the money went and all that. Like he could go to his accountant and say, hey, I need you to pay the band this amount. I'm assuming he could have done that. I don't know. But, he didn't. So that was a problem. And I think that would have been a problem for anybody because, Prince was very grueling, band person. Like I want to say band leader. That's what I'm looking for. He was a very grueling band leader. And the fact that, he had his band rehearsing, 10 plus hours a day. And then, sound check was another, couple of hours. And just constantly, you were constantly playing music 24/7. And to do all that hard work. And now, don't get me wrong, now $15,000 in 1984, that was quite, that was a nice little paycheck, But I think that, they were definitely expecting a little bit more zeros behind that. And the whole situation with, him and Wendy and Lisa and Susanna, that whole thing where he wasn't properly, this is in the same time period, wasn't properly giving, particularly Wendy and Lisa, their songwriting credits. Throughout the Parade album, that was a true collaborative album between the three of them, between Lisa, Wendy, and Prince. And Prince did not really hold up his end of the bargain as far as giving them credit for things that they worked on. For example, the song Mountains was definitely a composition that Wendy and Lisa put together. He just did the lyrics, but Lisa and Wendy did the music to Mountains. And they were not really given proper songwriting credit for that. Just like on the same album, Kiss, Brown Mark and David Z, who actually put together a lot of the melody for the final version of the song, were not given the proper credits. And matter of fact, Brown Mark said that on the liner notes of Parade, he was, I don't know if Prince did this or his manager or whoever, but they put him down as contributing to hand claps and something else really minor. And I was just like, wow, really? Hand claps? Thank you, Brown Mark, for the hand claps. Finger snaps? I think it was finger snaps. Finger snaps and hand claps, y'all. That's just dirty. And I get that Prince kind of, elevated the song to make it what it was. And he had initially gave them like this little country tune, because at first he gave them a little, because what it was, if y'all don't know the story, and I did say this in another episode when I talked about Parade, the album, in this time period. But anyway, to make a long story short, So Maserati, which was Brown Mark's group, and Prince were at Sunset Sound at the same time. And this was in March of 1985, I believe. And and he was, of course, Prince was, of course, recording Parade. So by 1985, okay, he was already 2 albums ahead. And this was still, the Purple Rain tour was still going on. The Purple Rain tour would not end until another month later in April of 1985. So this is how far ahead Prince is. He's already 2 albums past Purple Rain. Okay. So, but Maserati needed some help with their album, and they wanted to know if Prince wanted to contribute a song to their album. And so he said, yeah, sure. So he ended up giving them 100 MPH and I think Strawberry Lover as well. But he started working on this little country tune with his acoustic guitar, and he has some lyrics on it, and he left it with David Z and told him, David Z, he was, of course, the brother of Bobby Z, and he was this fantastic engineer. And he left it with David Z and said, hey, can you work on this for a little bit? And, maybe this is something else that you can throw on Maserati's album. And so David Z said, sure. So David Z and Brown Mark, when he came, they decided to work on it. And according to both David Z and Brown Mark, like, there was just this little, Prince singing, you don't have to be rich to be my girl, just the basic lyrics over an acoustic guitar. So it sounded like a really bluesy kind of country western type of tune. And so David Z decided to put a hi-hat on it and some other, instrumentation on it, some more beats to it, and a different type of melody. And it, started to really come together. And so the very next day, Prince came and was like, y'all are, they were taking a break, essentially. I don't know if it was the same day or, I think it was. It was the next day. So the next day, Prince came in, and I guess after he heard it, he was just like, oh, I'm taking this back. But I don't know if he quite said that he was going to just take it back or if he just took it back. Because he asked them at some point, David Z and Brown Mark and Maserati, they were going to go take a break. And so get some food. I don't know if it was lunch or dinner, one or the other. And so he was like, so when are you guys going to go to dinner? And they were like, yeah, we're finna get ready to go now. And so literally while they were at dinner or lunch, Prince took the song back and just took off Brown Mark's bass. So it was another song. Kiss was another song that didn't have a bass line. Because he took it out. and he just kind of just really kind of revamped it. He added that. So that was something that Prince added on his guitar, which is kind of from, James Brown's Papa's Got a Brand New Bag. He kind of, did like a little guitar riff like that, reminiscent of that James Brown song. So he added that, and he pretty much, from what I understand, kept the melody that David Z and Brown Market came up with, and just added the little that was it, and his guitar, his little guitar solo that he has on there, and then he sang it in his falsetto. So he put his vocals on it, he put the extra little guitar riff on it. And, and did, changed a few other little, minor things to it. And that was that. And so David Z and Brown Mark were like, really? But, he ended up, initially lying, basically, to Bobby and, not Bobby, David Z and Brown Mark, and saying, hey, yeah, you guys, I got you. I got you. You're going to get credit for it, of course. And they didn't. So was that a dick move? Absolutely. Was that a jerk move? Absolutely. Why did he do that? We don't know. But that is just an instance of him just being a jerk. But going back to the revolution and that whole situation. So, of course, he was dating Susanna, which was Wendy Melvoin's twin sister. And so that made it, personal. The fact that, he decided to go another direction and not wanting to bring the Revolution and their sound with him. And I think that's essentially what it was. It wasn't that he, wanted to disband the Revolution. I think that he just musically wanted to go in a different direction, because I kind of felt like Prince was, he had finally crossed over into the mainstream at this point. And he was doing a lot of pop. He was doing a lot of, stuff that wouldn't be considered, I guess, black music per se. He was doing a lot of pop and rock and roll and all this. And I think maybe he wanted to get back to his roots. And not to say that he couldn't have done that with the Revolution, but maybe he just didn't want to do it with the Revolution. And we'll never know why. He had his reasons for that. But I think that's primarily the reason why he wanted to move on from the Revolution. Not because, the extra little infighting, personal infighting that he may have had with him not being faithful to Susanna and getting into it with Wendy, over little things, and maybe having some little scuffles with maybe Wendy and Lisa at different points. That definitely didn't help, for sure. But I'm thinking that overall, Prince always put his music before any and everything. That was the most important aspect of his life to him. And when he felt like he was being, kind of being a little stagnant creatively, and he needed to find a way out. And so he was just like, I've got to redo some things. I got to rethink some things. And I've just got to let these people go so I can really move on and do some different type of things. And the Revolution, they would have been more than willing to go in any direction that Prince wanted to go. But I think for Prince, he just kind of felt like, the Revolution has a shelf life. I just want to move on. And so he actually, when he fired Wendy and Lisa, he called them over to his house. They had dinner. And he said something to the effect of that he didn't want them to have to wear like nipple, like pasties and like really short shorts or something crazy like this. And it's something that they kind of already, Lisa anyway, had already kind of been through back when he was doing, the Dirty Mind and that whole thing where he was practically, naked on stage and, had her dressed in a certain way. And of course they didn't want to go back to those days, and so that's kind of the excuse that he used. And, I don't want y'all to have to, be out there, dressed all like that. So, but I'm just like, Prince, you could have just told him, look, I'm interested in going in another musical direction. I don't know why, but, Prince just wasn't the best communicator. As we know, he communicated through his music. He wasn't a very good verbal communicator. So I don't know. I guess he just, to me, it was kind of a jerk move. I kind of felt like he could have went about that better, but, he didn't. Another instance where I kind of feel like he was a complete jerk is his instance of his treatment of the time, the group, and in particular, his treatment of Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis. Now, it was a blessing in disguise that he ended up firing them, because we did end up getting some wonderful, wonderful music. Because had he not fired them, I mean, who would have known? Like, would we had Janet Jackson, or, SOS Band, or, any of other bands and artists that they will go on to produce. So it turned out to be a blessing. But before, I really kind of felt like he could have went about that better, because I think, and he has even said this, that he was kind of intimidated by the time and how good they were. Like, I was listening to the official podcast, the official Prince podcast the other night, and Jelly Bean Johnson, who was the drummer for the time, said that, the time was basically Frankenstein's monster to Prince. Like, he didn't expect for them to be as popular or as good as they were, because especially during the Controversy and the Triple Threat tour, during the 1999 tour, they were extremely popular, and they were just kicking their asses every night. When I say they, I mean Prince and the Revolution. Like, the time, like, their spot probably wasn't even no more than maybe 30 or 45 minutes, but they were truly rocking the house, to the point where by the time they got to the Controversy tour, Prince was kind of fed up to the point where like, okay, y'all are trying to upstand me and I can't have this. So he would, while they were playing, have the lights down, the house lights dimmed, or he would have them, playing behind a curtain for Vanity 6. You couldn't see them, but you could hear them. Like, he would do little things like that to kind of sabotage them. And I really do think that when he fired Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, it was like it was basically the death knell for the time, even though, of course, they would go on and get new members. This was even before they started filming Purple Rain, when he fired them before Purple Rain started filming. But I think that was the death knell for the time. And I think that he did that purposely because he was intimidated by how successful they were. And of course, this never set well with Morris Day, the leader of the time. And he really saw Prince for what he was doing. And he talked about that in his book, which I also plan to review on the podcast. So that's coming up as soon as I can reread it. And so yeah, I kind of felt like he could have done them better. Like, because he was just so intimidated by them that he felt like he had to sabotage them. And I thought that was wrong. I mean, they're singing your songs that you wrote. And yeah, they are performing their asses off. And I would think that would be a reflection of you, on how great you are. You're a genius. But he didn't really see it like that. He saw it as them trying to take his thunder, and he didn't like that. So there's that. Let me see what else. Another instance, of course, we can talk about, as far as his personal life goes and his love life. Now, he was a complete jerk to, for instance, Jill Jones. He pretty much stringed her along for 10 years and, didn't promote her album when they finally got around to doing it, which I still haven't gotten around to listening to it, but I hear that Mia Boca is such a great album, and I like her voice. So I can only imagine that those songs on there are really, really nice. But I really felt like, she was really loyal to Prince at a time where she really didn't have to be. I mean, because he definitely wasn't being loyal to her. Like, he was, talking to, whoever he wanted to, in addition to seeing Jill in New York, because at one time, she had moved to New York and Prince was paying for her home there in New York. But, nevertheless, he was still seeing other women at the time that Jill was in New York. And I guess she, she was willing to put up with it because she loved him. And, she stayed always in his hair, as he would say. And I guess I don't know. We don't know. We don't really know everything. And I really wish that Jill would write a book about it. But I know that she's kind of a private person. And I mean, she's done enough interviews where she's kind of talked about the situation. But I really still feel like she should write a book about it and just kind of go into, whatever detail that she would like to about the situation. But I just think that he could have done her better. And not just her, but, probably a good majority of the women that he was with. Kim Berry, in her book, Diamonds and Curls, talked about how, not only did he seem to be kind of disrespectful toward women, but that, the people that worked for him, and that he even tried her a couple of times with trying to, almost fire her for somebody else, because Kim Berry said in her book that his second wife, Manuela, did not care for her, did not care for Kim, and wanted Prince to hire her hairdresser, which was this guy out of New York. And so Kim she found out about this, and she found out that, that Prince was going to try to fire her because he had told her that he wanted her to have this new guy show this new guy how to give a perm. And she said she refused. Kim was like, no, I'm not going to show the guy that you're going to try to replace me with how to do a perm. Are you crazy? Like, no. And but he would do stuff like that. He would try to get the person that he was going to be getting rid of try to show the new person that was coming in how to do their job. And, people do that. Like employers will try to do that. And it's kind of messed up when, regular people do it. But it's even more messed up when people like Prince do it. People that you really admire. And, it's just so messed up. But she would often say one of the things that she didn't like about Prince was the fact that he would just talk to people any kind of way that worked for him, because he was such a perfectionist and he wanted things in a particular way. He wanted things done like yesterday. And if you didn't do it, you risk being fired. You risk being talked bad to. Like she said, there were instances where, he made people cry. He stressed people out, to the point where, they were just, crying in a crying fit, because of how he's treated them and what he, said, but at the same time, she said that Prince could be the nicest person in the world, the sweetest person in the world, would always ask, hey, did you eat today? Are you hungry? Do you need something? But, but then turn around and, just talk about you like a dog. So he, once again, that dual nature of a Gemini was always present with him. And, that's just the nature of it, unfortunately. Let me see. What else can I talk about? Let me see what else. Well, we might have to have a part 1 and a part 2 for this, because there are some other things that I want to talk about, but I think I'm going to end it right now, and we're going to come back to a part 2 for Is Prince a Jerk? So I'm going to end it here, guys. So thank you guys so much. Peace and be wild, and may you live to see the dawn. Bye.